Hi, I'm David McFarlane. I'm Gamma's Managing Director of our Enterprise and Public Sector Division. I'm delighted you can join us today, and we look forward very much, James and I, discussing the SD-WAN marketplace, and in fact, why large organizations and public sectors are actually investing heavily into this technology. So SD-WAN, James, is on the tip of everyone's tongue, isn't it? I mean, every enterprise architect, every CIO we talk to is actually saying to us, I must have an SD-WAN. Are they right?
Potentially. The story's out there that SD-WAN is cheaper. That is the tagline that all CEOs are looking at, and they're coming down to their lead architects and everything and just saying, I want SD-WAN, it's cheaper. That isn't necessarily the case.
So why do they think it's cheaper?
I think the big marketing, if you were to go and read Fortinet's website, Cisco's website, Aruba website, all of these players, their first tagline is SD-WAN is 100 times cheaper than MPLS. And that just isn't the case in the UK. The price differentials are much, much closer. If you're talking America and you've got massive converged, massive global networks, straight away you are looking probably at an SD-WAN solution, local breakout for your different countries that you have, so you can consume Google as a native species, sure. And then you can actually bring all your WAN together. And of course, the cost of MPLS with the latency and everything in countries like America, Australia, it's massive, absolutely massive. If you go to somewhere like Dubai and the cost of MPLS is through the roof. You're talking £25,000 for a 2 meg circuit on MPLS a month. That's not a year, that's a month. Okay. Yes. Sure. So internet is a fraction of that cost.
So what we're actually saying is SD-WAN's economies, the economy of SD-WAN is a cost saving on the access circuits, yeah? But surely the access circuits are of lower quality then, aren't they?
The access circuits are pretty much the same access circuits in most cases. You can deploy DIA, as we'll term it, direct internet access. The actual transport layer that we deploy, especially in the UK, is the same, whether you're buying MPLS, and then it's up to your ISP or your telco, what they're going to run over it. Yes, there are more broadband services that are pure straight to internet, home broadband, it does give you that flexibility, but you'll get a more secure service with MPLS.
So actually, you're quite right there, because you actually think the building blocks of a corporate network, we have access circuits, yeah? And let's be frank, access circuits price is fundamentally based on the service level agreement. You know, why is FTTP not overly displacing business Ethernet? Because one is really a consumer product being used by the business, and the other one is a business product. The fundamental difference is the repair time, because that's what businesses want, availability. So if we've got the same access circuit, we've got the CPE, the customer premises equipment that sits on the end of it, and we all know SD-WAN's a heck of a lot more expensive at that layer, yeah, from an access router. So when you build the components, it's natively going to be more expensive.
In most cases in the UK, it does tend to start off a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, anecdotally, I remember a Gartner analyst telling me once the problem with SD-WAN in the United Kingdom is the country's not big enough. Yeah, you know, we have native cover of Ethernet, so actually. Why would you need this breakout? Because guess what? If you're breaking out to the internet from Glasgow, you'll probably route to London anyway or Manchester.
It's where all the key internet exchanges are, so the traffic will follow the same path. It just might appear on your network diagram that it's left your network at the site, but in actuality, it's following the same access circuit through the same corporate infrastructures, the same backbone telco infrastructures, until it gets down to London and pops out onto the internet.
So maybe that's the key point here. Does this SD-WAN technology, and let's keep it the access layer just now, because we know there's a very, it's got a fantastic ISO model SD-WAN. So in an MPLS, you have to buy the circuit you require to carry the majority of your traffic, yeah? So you would typically buy, 100 megabit or 1 gigabit. It will be business Ethernet, and you would back it up with either a similar product or a similar access circuit, or typically we're seeing in enterprise a copper-based service, an FTTC or if available, an FTTP, right? Yeah. So SD-WANs, however, they're trying to remove the expensive capacity, aren't they? And put an FTTP in with an FTTC or a lower broadband service and calling that an enterprise network. So why isn't that better than the previous solution if you've got multiple connections?
You are, as you said earlier, buying a consumer product, the SLA, the contention on it, it's not a better service. They tend to be asynchronous as well.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
So Yeah. You are better with an Ethernet service straight away if you've got a real serious corporate business there, especially with reliability. Most of these FTTC circuits and all the rest of it, you are looking at a 3-day SLA. If you can get that, BT will not offer much more than that. You are at their whim.
Do you think SD-WANs are taking the power? Because SD-WAN, years ago when it was coming out to market, it was driven by equipment vendors. Yeah, it's an interesting paradigm shift here, isn't it? Yeah, actually, the whole market is dominated by 3 or 4 key vendors. Yeah, the network operators are struggling. Certainly, our competitors, I can see, struggling to create a product and a service out of that. Is part of the benefit of SD-WAN giving control back to the organization?
One of the big benefits of SD-WAN is absolutely that central control model. It's been built from the ground up to be a cloud-managed central control model. Your traditional routers and everything, they're starting to make their way there. But actually, that central control model does allow very fast, very scalable deployment. Sure. It is very easy to bring a site up online, following a standard template. And we are seeing that this is where we're seeing the benefits of SD-WAN, in that quick deployment, that quick management, that centralized control and visibility. That is.
So when you're out talking to customers and organizations that are either implemented or be considering it, are you seeing them buy managed services from the network operators?
This is what we're seeing across the market everywhere. Every customer you speak to wants to buy in a fully managed network. Right. They want to buy the circuits. They want to buy the actual management of that. They also want you to take over everything to do with networks, whether it be DNS, DHCP, all of these elements combined, the remote access services. They basically, any network problems, they want to go to one person. Customers are having problems. The outsourcing model has been around for a number of years now. I've worked myself in it for 20 years. Yes. We saw it really kick off pre-2000 when there was a massive growth in it. A lot of companies, a lot of councils, a lot of central government pushed all of their infrastructure support out to other companies. This has been a model that's been around for a long time now. Where we're seeing a shift, and we've seen it over the last 6 to 7 years, is companies are now saying, actually, I've got a WAN vendor who's doing my network. We've got an infrastructure services team. I actually just want to get all my network, because suddenly I've got these 6 or 7 different companies who are all saying it's someone else's fault. They're pushing it out and it's bouncing around, and we're having to build a central team again to actually manage all these suppliers, to tell them how it all works. We want someone to come in and just take ownership of our entire network. And in a lot of the cases I've seen, they don't want a company that's coming in to front that and have lots of independent people behind them. So I've seen bids where people have come in and they've got a telco supporting them. Yes. Where they've gone is where there's a company that can actually provide the circuits, the management of those circuits, the SD-WAN, the LAN support, willing to work with them, provide senior architectural guidance as well. That's the all-in-one solution, especially if you can throw mobile, UCAS, and all these other elements into it. They want one network communications provider.
I think you're quite right, James, actually. And it's illogical, isn't it, that organizations who have been used to dealing with managed network operators at an MPLS level would go SD-WAN and predominantly move the burden of supporting and deploying it onto themselves. They need to focus on their core business and let the experts, because SD-WAN does add, although visibility, and we'll come on to that later on, does add a whole raft of complexity into deployment, doesn't it? It does. And I'm right in saying that we've actually had organizations who have gone down that journey, assumed they could deploy and manage themselves, come to us and say, please, this is a bit bigger than we thought. So in that, what type of challenges were they finding?
Most of the time, because they have used this outsourcing model for many times, the skills within their teams have degraded over time. They've not been doing the BGP. Yeah. Back in the day, you used to buy quite often a wires-only service from a telco, and you'd have your own staff actually managing the end router. This has all disappeared over the last 10 to 15 years. Now companies don't have that technical knowledge in-house anymore. And whilst most SD-WAN solutions look quite nice GUI, point and click, you still have to know what you're doing under the ground. A lot of issues we're seeing is where customers are just deploying it out the box, reading the scripts, but without that fundamental knowledge of networking underneath, the deeper spanning tree protocols, the deeper nuances of BGP, etc., they're getting themselves into a muddle. They constantly find it's going down, not working. That's when we're offering help, and they're coming to us. And yeah.
So one of the fundamental differences between SD-WAN and a classic MPLS is obviously the underlying IP routing, yeah? One's a private network, the other one's a public network, yeah? Although I understand you can clearly run SD-WAN over a private network, it's just a transport, yeah? So, yeah, but the majority of deployments are the internet, right? The internet, I think, is a ubiquitous network, it's everywhere, but there is a fundamental issue with the internet, isn't there? And it's called service level agreements, yeah? It's a best efforts network. Yep. Some organizations have priority, for example, Gamma, but most don't, yeah? So where do I go if I've got a problem?
This is it. Most companies you'll go to now will tell you with SD-WAN that they can't really offer a service level agreement for your traffic out to the internet.
Sure.
As soon as it crosses that boundary, so if you buy it off Gamma, we do have a Gamma network. Whether it be MPLS or internet, it's actually just our network. Mm-hmm. So we can guarantee not business grade internet. Maybe it's something we should look at, actually.
Jot that product down.
Yeah. But we can then start to look at quality of service on the MPLS side. Yeah. Internet, it will preserve the packets in the SD-WAN layer, but no one listens to it at the internet layer. They're ignored. So you should see within the Gamma network good connectivity, but as soon as you leave, you are at the mercy of the internet again.
So one of the benefits, or one of the controls that a private network gives you is security. Yeah. Now, software-defined networks are kind of put up there as a security product. Yeah. I mean, in fact, the market is attacked from two sides, isn't it? The network operators and security operators. They're coming into the middle. And clearly, some people say security is more important. The other side say that routing and control is more important. So I worked with enterprises for almost all my career, and all the way through that, we've been trying to limit access to the internet to remove a threat vector. Yeah. The minute I go to SD-WAN, if I'm a 400 site retailer, I've just multiplied my threat vectors by 400 times. Yeah. So don't organizations consider this to be a challenge of SD-WAN?
I've not seen an organization look at it yet. When it's been mentioned, they're quite happy as long as they've got a security device at the edge.
So with a classic network, typically DIA or internet access, which we're probably aware is where the majority of threat vectors come from, comes back to a central location, goes through a whole security stack, right? Okay, so firewalls, proxies, IDS, IPS, all the things that enterprises invest in. Now, that's fine. You may have one or two, okay? So say I'm a 400 node, 400 site enterprise, and I adopt SD-WAN, being as it's internet based, I've just opened my organization to 400 edges, surely. So how do the enterprises attack security in that model?
So what we're seeing is the majority of SD-WAN devices these days, security is top of the stack for these devices. They're all talking next generation firewall capabilities. They're all offering IPS IDS. They're all offering URL categorization. They do need to be secure devices. This is where Gartner coined the term secure access, secure edge. As they moved to this, it realized you got this distributed compute model. You had to protect that edge. Now, we've taken that one step further in Gamma. While customers are deploying this and all the rest of it, you still need to know about it. You need tools to look at it. We've got a specialist security function that we can add and overlay on top of that as well to give a full SIEM service on these SD-WAN, so we can take feeds from that and report on it. Okay,
fantastic. So the message here is you are increasing your vectors, but you need to treat them as you need to treat them as valid vectors, and as important as the core network vector as well. So really layering your SOC and SIEM, which is probably sat there monitoring the core, because that's the only one you now need to distribute across 400 devices. Interesting to hear that this technology really helps with rapid deployment, because clearly a couple of challenges in the industry now, PSTN switch off, and I think it's no secret we're challenged with finding, let's say, OpenReach turning services on without the replacement service turning up. So take me through some of the examples of fast start where SD-WAN can really help our customers.
So fast start, and we're also seeing lots of sites that have no connectivity, people popping up all over. And this is where SD-WAN over those alternate access technologies like cellular, satellite is a real benefit to customers. This is where they can get deployed and up and running. We do work for some construction companies. There is no infrastructure when they go there to build the stuff, because they're going to build that infrastructure. So straight away we can use the LEO with an SD-WAN on the back of it to give them that connectivity at site really fast. Retail stores can open very quickly. They want Ethernet circuits, 90-day lead time from most suppliers. Again, we can put 4G, 5G in very quickly, get them up and running. Satellite as well, and this is where SD-WAN protects that, because a lot of these services are public access anyway. So this is where the SD-WAN having that quick deployment model, and you can straight away deploy as-is services to the site, so that when you then transition to Ethernet or a fixed line service, it's a switch over. You can even bring it in live. So the fast start is very, very good use case for these.
So we're clearly going through the PSTN switch off, yeah? And, you know, I speak to customers on a regular basis about the challenges that they're facing, in fact, finding replacement technology. And there's one industry that seems to be struggling more than most, and that's retailers, clearly because they have a large deployment of copper-based services. Could SD-WAN help them out?
This is where, again, this fast start type technology, using cellular, satellite, we can quickly get them onto an alternative access layer very fast with SD-WAN, replicating their existing connectivity so that they can then move away from those copper lines until BT and all the likes have deployed services everywhere that they need to consume again. But I think a lot of these will end up using satellite and 5G signals.
So that's an interesting one, because retail is certainly one of the environments we've found that they are probably fairly advanced on their cloud application adoption.
They are their key for them is getting their credit card transactions out, and that is software as a service.
Card, CCTV, point of sale, everything's transactional, needs to get to the cloud quickly so that they can understand their retail intelligence. So that's a really interesting one, and that would clearly explain why retailers are consuming SD-WAN hand over fist just now.
They are certainly one of the big adopters of it.
So thank you, James. That's been really interesting. Any closing comments?
Yes, I think we've covered a lot of it now, but I think the key points we've been trying to make is the move to SD-WAN. It can be an expensive option, so you really do need to consider, is your business ready to make the best of it now? Have you moved fully to the cloud? Are you local breaking out all your traffic? If you are, then SD-WAN may well be the move for you to do now. You just have to look how it aligns with your future technology, where you're going, when's the best time to implement, when to invest. If you're still on-prem with data centers and quite happy, maybe MPLS will last you a bit longer. So look to when best to leverage that investment, when it's going to give you true value for the money that you will have to invest to move to it.
Thanks, James. That was a great debate. And I hope you found it of great interest too. Keep your eyes open for the next episode, where we'll be taking it to the next layer, probably deeper on some use cases, but certainly exploring the value of SD-WAN to large enterprise and public sector organizations.